ghost ship found 95 years after disappearing is leaving researchers shaken. There wasn't GPS or radar 100 years ago, so when things went missing, they tended to stay missing. But one vessel that went missing way back in 1925 made a century-long search a bit easier when it actually returned after having vanished for almost 100 years. The ill-fated carrier was set to go from Charleston, South Carolina, and disembark in Havana, Cuba. Along with the hefty cargo, 32 crew members were on board the ship. Many people have been perplexed by this ship's absence, but the reality behind its comeback is much weirder than the initial mystery. The ship hadn't been lost for a century in the traditional sense, but it had been absent for over 95 years. However, it turns out that there was something else weird going on when the spacecraft vanished that may have provided some clues as to what happened to it. A storm blasted through the region where the ship was supposed to land. However, after the boat still hadn't arrived in Havana several days after departure, people grew concerned. Still, residents of the port city held out hope that somehow passengers were just delayed and might still arrive safely. On Saturday evening, the ship was supposed to arrive in Havana, but it never arrived. The ship resumed its trip towards Cuba after being examined by officials and pronounced seaworthy, only for the captain to turn it back upon learning of a storm that would prohibit his ship from entering port. After days turned into weeks, and weeks stretched out into months, the friends and family of those on board had to resign themselves to the awful truth that they might never find out what had happened to their loved ones. Those aboard the SS Cotopaxi dreaded the worst when the ship failed to arrive at its destination after days without communication. Luckily for all on board, distress signs were heard by the other ships near, and then within 24 hours of the loss of the SS Cotopaxi, other ships reacted to come and rescue crew and passengers personnel. Only 3 people passed away in the disaster, 2 men from of the staff and 1 lady from among passengers who passed away when she refused to be rescued. Although researchers tried for years to answer the elusive question of what on earth had occurred that day and where the Cotopaxi had gotten off to, they failed to produce any meaningful results. Colombian officials reported in 2013 that they had found the wreckage of the Cotopaxi using cutting-edge technology called side-scan sonar. After a 2-year disappearance, the Cotopaxi was located in Bermuda. Although the ship looked to be in fine shape, there were no signs of recovery on board. Unfortunately, this purported finding has created even more speculation about what may have happened to the team and why no one has been able to locate their bodies. The SS Cotopaxi was reported lost in 1925, but it wasn't until years later that tales of another vessel being discovered that the story truly took off. The SS Cotopaxi was discovered empty and adrift off the coast of St. Augustine, with no evidence of damage. There were apparently no bodies or other evidence on board to suggest what had transpired, according to the report. Over the years, the mystery of the vanished ship deepened when rampant rumors surfaced that the vessel had been found empty, floating along near the St. Augustine coast where it had first set sail. These reports were quickly debunked. However, 95 whole years after the boat's initial disappearance, a group of daring researchers finally discovered the real truth about the dark fate of the SS Cotopaxi. They risked everything to find the answer. In the year 1925, the SS Cotopaxi is supposed to have vanished. The ship was discovered drifting in the Pacific Ocean, and its sonar was never recovered. It was a huge tragedy. The ship's crew, who numbered just 22, was said to have been slain by South American pirates. However, a team of experts found what may have happened to the ship in 2015. It's nothing short of miraculous. In fact, they were able to locate the ship's wreckage over a century after it disappeared with its complete crew still aboard. A team of divers and scientists, including Shipwreck Secrets host Michael Barnett, combed through all the evidence they could. The ship's wreckage remained for 95 years on the ocean below until being found by a team of divers and researchers led by Michael Barnett, host of National Geographic's Shipwrecked. The Luckenbach was discovered in 2010, but a recent study indicates that there was more to the wreckage than meets the eye when it vanished. Indeed, some speculate that a mysterious individual named Jake may have been involved in its disappearance. When the SS Cotopaxi showed up, it left researchers everywhere scratching their heads. The interest in this ship never decreased. While scanning these piles of documents, the researchers suddenly came upon papers provided by the boat's insurer. This quickly led them down the path to a startling discovery. However, this paper was not filed and was just thrown away, as if no one knew it existed. The ship's discovery was briefly reported in a few publications before fading into oblivion. It appears that no one bothered to file the papers with the appropriate government agency. Muckrock's outstanding researchers have spent years searching for this kind of paper, uncovering many amazing historical jewels in their effort to make government data accessible to the general public. It was such a massive discovery that startled people around the globe. They found that a distress call had been sent from the Cotopaxi on December 1, a couple of days after it left shore. Apparently, passengers and sailors were caught up in a tropical storm, and the ship was taking on water. That wasn't all. The Coast Guard searched for the ship underwater but came up short. They claimed to have no knowledge of the ship's fate. Other information included in the logs, such as the ship's exact route and the location that the fruitless distress signal had come from. The ship's whereabouts were unknown for decades until bottles and cans of Del Monte fruit with 1925 labels were discovered within. They discovered debris at a depth of 7,000 feet beneath the water level, where there should be almost no oxygen. However, they also uncovered over 200,000 bottles and cans of alcohol, all of which were fully undamaged. The coordinates of the distress call led the researchers straight to a shipwreck that lay beneath the watery depths. However, this was no newly discovered wreck. It was found 30 years earlier and left unidentified, simply named the Bear Wreck. After 95 years, the ship was found laying on its starboard at a range of 2 miles in the Arctic Circle. The ship is thought to be the one discovered off the coast of Greenland in 1925, but it was never recognized since it sunk while transporting coal from Wales to New York. With the help of professional divers, scientists used corroborating information such as the ship's dimensions, the orientation of its machinery, and even the size of its boiler to confirm that the wreck was in fact the SS Cotopaxi. Many assumed the ship had sunk at sea or been robbed by pirates. They established the wreck was the SS Cotopaxi by using confirming facts such as the ship's measurements, the direction of its equipment, and even the size of its boiler. Historians are still waiting for authorization from Bolivia's government to continue their investigation. While many conspiracy nuts associated this mystery with the supposedly supernatural legacy of the Bermuda Triangle, where many vehicles went missing without a trace, a crew from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution discovered the ship some 4,000 miles distant in barely 8 miles of water near Morocco. The phantom ship has been added to the National Register of Historic Places. The wreck was discovered some 35 miles south of Agadir, Morocco, at an unknown location, a long way away from its intended destination. In February 1925, the ship set sail from Baltimore with a load of pig iron heading for New York. Regardless of how close the wreck was to the triangle, Barnett refused to indulge in what he saw as a big myth. In 2015, the SS Cotopaxi was discovered off the coast of Bermuda, around 1,046 kilometers east of Miami and 1,609 kilometers south-southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. The Bermuda Triangle is made up of 4 points: Bermuda, Miami, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A crew from Modern Marine Services used advanced sonar technology to find the ship on January 8 at a depth of more than 3,280 feet. shipwrecks and other lost cargo are common in the region where it was recovered. For what it's worth, the Coast Guard doesn't believe in the otherworldliness of the Bermuda Triangle either. They officially stated, "There is no evidence that mysterious disappearances occur with any greater frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than in any other large, well-traveled area of the ocean." The Coast Guard searched for the ship and her occupants for 2 days without finding anything. They were unable to find any debris or corpses in the Atlantic Ocean, though. People began to speculate that the ship had been dragged into a Bermuda Triangle maelstrom and taken somewhere else on the planet over time. There have been some unusual rumors coming out of this part of the ocean recently. Before retreating back into the water, this unidentified submerged object approached their boat and circled it 3 times. However, one academic does think that this region could be more lethal than others. The vessel's identification was confirmed by the U.S. Coast Guard, who stated it was discovered by a survey vessel working for the oil company Hilcorp. The Cotopaxi, which went down in 1925, was discovered upright and almost undamaged in much more than 6,800 feet of water about 110 miles west of Dutch Harbor, Aleutian Islands. Despite the fact that the SS Cotopaxi's discovery is remarkable, and it may be one of the most significant shipwrecks discovered in recent memory, many people have been perplexed by its recovery. Marine experts have searched several sources for information on this shipwreck but have come up empty-handed. The ship was discovered on Beechey Island in the Canadian province of Nunavut by the staff of a Norwegian research ship, which observed it resting at the bottom of the sea floor. The team photographed the wreck with remotely controlled vehicles, which indicated that the upper part had been obliterated.